I was recently talking to a colleague about a brilliant surgeon that I came across, and her clinical outcomes were exceptional, the kind that her peers really admired. But when a leadership role opened up, the feedback she received was unfortunately career ending and frustratingly vague. They told her that she just lacks presence. And that conversation just really stuck with me because what does lacking presence actually mean? I've come to see that this idea of leadership presence is one of the most misused concepts in healthcare. It's often a tool of bias that sidelines incredibly amazing people. Today's video, we're going to talk about this leadership myth and what you can do about it. Hello, everyone. My name is Devon Bruce. I'm the founder and CEO of the English Communication Academy. We help non-native English speakers in healthcare communicate effectively with our patients, colleagues, and staff. And before we start, please grab my free guide, 10 Phrases Every Healthcare Professional Should Know. It is full of practical tools to help you sound clear, calm, and professional in English in real-world settings. If you want the link for that, it's in the description box below. Now, what does lacking presence actually mean? I've come to see this idea of leadership presence is one of the most misused concepts in healthcare. And it's often a tool of bias that sidelines incredibly amazing people. So today we're going to explore that and what you can do about it. All right, let's get to it. Now, what I just shared with you with that surgeon isn't unique, unfortunately. It's a pattern that I've noticed over and over again in healthcare organizations. We talk about leadership presence as if it's a concrete skill, but when you press for an actual definition, you rarely get a clear answer. It's a very hazy collection of subjective traits, things like confidence, a particular communication style, or assertiveness. And of course, the idea isn't entirely baseless because leadership resources often describe presence as a blend of emotional intelligence and having a vision. The problem with that is in practice, it's often used as like a catch-all for how well someone fits a preconceived notion of what a leader should look like and what a leader should sound like. That's where the concept can become dangerous because it stops being about a measure of performance and becomes a judgment of conformity. Now, when feedback is that subjective, it becomes a perfect cover for unconscious bias. Phrases like, she lacks confidence, or he could be more proactive, can easily become coded language for is different. This might be about gender, background, culture, or simple as how someone speaks. But the research here is pretty clear. Accent bias, for example, is a well-documented barrier. One study found a person's accent could account for nearly 19% of variance in their perceived managerial competence, even after factoring in their education and experience. This linguistic elitism acts as like a gatekeeper of sorts, where your accent can signal your perceived status way before you have a chance to demonstrate your ability. So for leaders from different cultural backgrounds, this bias is often compounded. Other studies show that non-native English speakers are frequently perceived as having weaker political or leadership skills, which can impede their advancement into executive roles. This is especially true for women with non-native English speaking accents. The system forces them to navigate a minefield where their communication style is judged against a narrow, culturally specific standard. Another focus on presence that creates a false emphasis is prioritizing charisma over competence. While charisma can inspire, competence is what builds long-term trust and delivers results. But our traditional evaluation methods often sideline the quiet, brilliant clinicians and researchers who may be more introverted or simply don't fit the mold of a loud, commanding speaker. So Unfortunately, we end up promoting the performance of leadership over the substance of it. This reflects an outdated gatekeeper model of leadership, one that is rooted in hierarchy and control. But modern healthcare doesn't need to gatekeep. It needs groundskeepers, as I say. It needs leaders who cultivate an environment where their teams, they feel supported, they feel valued and empowered. Their presence isn't felt through a commanding aura, but through a steady, meaningful commitment to being there for their staff. Yet we often continue to select for the gatekeepers because our idea of presence is stuck in the past. Now, here's where the real damage is done. Telling someone they lack presence is a way to halt their career without offering any concrete, actionable advice. It's a dead end because how does one improve their presence? Research on performance reviews shows that vague feedback is not only unhelpful, but it can also be a tool for discrimination. Studies have also found that women, for example, are systemically more likely to receive vague feedback that isn't tied to specific business outcomes, making it much harder for them to advance. So, this kind of feedback places the burden of fixing an undefined problem entirely on the individual, while the organization avoids looking at its own biased systems. This isn't just unfair, it's a tremendous loss for a healthcare system that desperately needs capable leaders. So, having said all this, what's the alternative? Well, we need to shift from a system of perception to a system of competence. So instead of asking if a candidate has the proper presence, we should be asking better questions. For example, what are the team's outcomes? How effectively do they collaborate and mentor others? Do they make sound ethical decisions under pressure? Do they foster an environment of psychological safety and innovation? So the next time you're in a leadership meeting and hear that someone lacks presence, I challenge you to ask a simple question. What do you mean by that in terms of their actual performance? Because let's stop judging our medical leaders on an ambiguous feeling and let's start valuing them for their competence, their character, and their commitment to their teams. That is the real presence. All right. If this video helped you, please hit like and subscribe. I post new videos every week to help you build real world fluency in your professional life. Also, please share with other non-native English speakers in healthcare because I am on a mission to close the English gap. And if you want some quick fixes, don't forget to download my free guide, 10 phrases every healthcare professional should know. It's jam-packed with essential phrases, when to use them, when not to use them, and a real world healthcare environment. The link for that is in the description box below. And if you liked this video, check these other ones out too. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Take care.